find the juice is back and it is football season. Week 1, baby. And we're bringing you our first fantasy football rankings of the season. We're going to go down position by position and we will have our rankings on the side. And I'm going to point out one player from each position that I feel like I'm different from the rest of the other guys dropping their rankings here on YouTube and over at the big media markets like Yahoo, ESPN, CBS stuff. And if you don't see someone you have questions about in these rankings on the side, go ahead and leave a comment below and ask us. We will give you an answer, or you can follow us on Instagram and Twitter and ask there, and those links are in the description below. So let's kick it off with quarterbacks. And you can see all the rankings right here next to my face. And we're going to talk about someone who probably stands out to all of you at number 6, Joe Flacco. And I will break it down first by saying Cleveland led the NFL in passing play rate per game, running 65% of their total plays as pass plays last season. This leads into a good mix against the Cincinnati Bengals in week 1, who come into the 2025 season with the third worst secondary in terms of fantasy points per target allowed in our projections, to go along with the fourth worst fantasy points per pass attempt allowed. Cincinnati is really hurt more so from their safety play, where we saw Geno Stone last year fall apart after leaving Baltimore, giving up 5 touchdowns and missing 16% of his tackles. To go along with Stone, they have Jordan Battle as safety, who had 0 pass breakups while allowing 2 touchdowns in only 6 games he started last season. Cleveland should be playing from behind, which helps us really feel safe about the Browns' high pass usage in week 1. To go along with Flacco and Cincinnati's garbage defense, we also like some of Cleveland weapons like Jerry Jeudy, David Njoku, Harold Fannin Jr., Cedric Tillman, and let's not forget that Quinshawn Judkins still has an opportunity to play, which I believe would only help us and Joe Flacco with his explosiveness when he has a ball at his hands, whether it be on a screen, dump off, or a short out route. So that wraps up quarterbacks, and I only put up the top 12 quarterbacks. So if you don't see your quarterback in the top 12, you probably should look for another option this week. And now, let's head on over to wide receiver. And I know you're going to look at this list. You're looking at the top 3 guys. You're like, where the hell is Jamar Chase? You got to look down a little bit more. And let me tell you why. Although Cincinnati was second in the NFL in percentage of pass plays run right behind the Browns, why is Jamar so low? Well, I'm assuming everyone thinks the Browns will lose this game by at least a touchdown. And with that being said, I'll also dig into how the Bengals ran their offense last season in those situations. The Bengals went from a season average of 65% pass plays all the way down to 58% pass plays in games where they won by a touchdown or more in 2024. To build onto this, the Bengals ran a literal balanced offense in both games last year against Cleveland, where they went 50% pass and 50% run. Chase's fantasy points in the 2 games versus Cleveland last season were 17.6 points in the first game and 22.4 points in the second game. I feel like projecting Jamar for 19 points is a good median for this first game of the season. We do have Cleveland ranked as the 7th worst secondary. This is highlighted by, just like Cincinnati, terrible coverage safety. It also hurts Cleveland losing Martin Emerson to the IR, where he's going to be replaced by Cameron Mitchell. Mitchell allowed 3 touchdowns, a 117.4 passer rating, and missed 29% of his tackles last season. The ceiling obviously is massive for Jamar, as we have him projected for the 4th most fantasy points per target. But we're going to be conservative with them in week 1, projecting that the Bengals will be in position to run the ball and burn the clock on the way to a week 1 win. Now, let's get into some running backs. Again, all the rankings are right here by my face, and I'm not going to talk about Ashton Jeanty. I'm not going to talk about RJ Harvey. I'm not going to talk about Bill. Everybody's already talking about all those guys. I don't want to be repetitive. So who I'm going to talk about is someone that I found I'm a little bit higher on than everyone else in the market. And that's going to be Green Bay Packer Josh Jacobs. Looking at his ADP, I saw that this could be a lot of people's actual RB2 on their teams. And in week 1, we have him ranked as a running back 1. That means a top 12 running back this week. Green Bay ran the ball at the third highest rate last season due to injuries to the receiving corps throughout the season, as well as an injury to quarterback Jordan Love. The Pack starts this season with somewhat the same ordeal, missing Christian Watson to go along with Jaden Reed and Dontavian Wicks dealing with some pain going into week 1. Due to these receiver injuries, we at Find the Juice have Josh Jacobs going back to his 2023 receiving status of 14% or more target share for at least week 1. We are looking for Jacobs to add 1.35 fantasy points per target on top of his rushing upside, where he's projected for 0.73 fantasy points per rush in week 1 using our metric. Detroit, which I know a lot of you are probably afraid of just by the name, Detroit was actually the 7th worst team in allowing fantasy points per rush in 2024, while having about a league average linebacker core in coverage, since we're talking about Jacobs receiving upside. Detroit also allowed 0.71 rushing touchdowns per game last season, where Jacobs put up 0.77 rushing touchdowns per game last season for the Packers. To me, this is very important because this game projects to be very close against the division rival to open the season. And as you would imagine, the Packers would like to maintain possession of the ball to keep Detroit's high-powered offense off the field. You could even believe that Detroit's run defense could be even worse this season with the loss of defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn, who took the head coaching job of the New York Jets. The one thing that could hold Jacobs back is that Detroit was a great tackling team last season, as they had the 6th least missed tackles in the NFL. To me, that tells me it really hurts the ability for big plays by Josh Jacobs. Between defensive tackles DJ Reader and Tyleik Williams and middle linebacker Jack Campbell, the Lions only missed 7% of their tackles last year. And finally, we're going to get into the tight end. And we're going to talk about Tennessee Titan tight end Chig. And let me tell you, it's not just the one guy that everyone is talking about as a benefactor to the Titans finally drafting a competent quarterback with the number 1 pick. It's not just Calvin Ridley, but it's also Chig. We've been waiting years for Chig to finally hit his prime in production, but he's been held back by terrible quarterback play from Mason Rudolph, Will Levis, and Ryan Tannehill. Chig's physical attributes look literally identical to another former Titans tight end, and that's Delaney Walker, which is another reason we see real promise in Chig. Even with bad quarterback play, Chig has been able to put up about league average for tight ends fantasy points per target around 1.7 points. Chig now gets Cam Ward at quarterback. Ward targeted his tight end Elijah Arroyo at Miami just as much as his top receiver and also new Tennessee Titan Xavier Restrepo. We are viewing Chig as a second pass catching option in Tennessee this season, at least until Elick Ailmanor builds some chemistry with Cam Ward. Some of you may be screaming at me right now, "They're playing the Broncos, you idiot!" Well, let me tell you, linebackers and safeties are responsible for defending tight ends in coverage. We at Find the Juice project the Denver Broncos to have the 2nd worst coverage linebackers in the NFL this season. Watch out for that all year. Another thing that doesn't bode well in Denver for defending Chig is new strong safety Hufanga, who gave up 6 touchdowns in 2022, his only season where he started 17 games. He also allows a 91.1 passer rating and a 67% completion percentage against him. All these numbers came while he was in San Francisco, so it was not due to a lack of help around him. We have Chig projected in week 1 for a 17% target share, which is similar to his 2023 season. If you think it's too high based off of last season, just know that in the last 5 games in 2024, Chig actually reeled in a 22.1% target share on the Titans. And that's all I got for this week. Again, if you have questions about someone not seen on the rankings or talked about, let me know in the comments below. I will gladly help you out with flex options, defense, kickers, waiver wire pickups. Also, follow us on Instagram and Twitter. You can ask us stuff over there as well. And until next time, I hope you guys win week 1. Peace.